We continued the class, coming to the point of understanding that our baseline is joy. No matter what, no matter how, baseline, the status quo of our lives is joy. If you would, please subscribe, share, drop a like. Thank you so much. So if somebody was looking at their own situation, I think I'll just make up a situation to, of course, people could always suggest situations. You could suggest on the chat. You could chat to me privately, and then I could use that as an example. If anyone would like to put an example on the chat or say it or send it to me privately, and I can share it without anyone's name. But a health situation. What would depression, atzvos, sound like? And what would marira sound like? Any ideas? What would thinking about this health situation from this sad, depressed place, what would you be telling yourself?
I think the difference between depression and marira is depression is more of internally, you just feel crappy, like you have no energy, you don't want to do anything, and you don't care for whatever. But mariros, I think, is more of like you feel like you've been like plagued, or like, why is this happening to me? You're not like internally just feeling better. You feel like it's coming from an external place or something. Like something or someone is doing something to you to cause it.
And then there's hope of getting out of it. So there's more hope there. You don't feel as
well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on what you endure, right? I mean, at some point, I think you get to a point where you're like, you feel like there's no way out. I don't know.
Okay, that could be. I think if you feel like there's no way out, it can't be mariras. Because mariras, there's a belief there's a way out. But I like how you explained that like sadness, because that sounded very on target. But in the mariras, and I hear the differentiation you're making. If it's something outside of you, I would think it means it's not affecting you as the same way. I mean, obviously something outside of you could also be a very big impact on you. But in theory, I think there's more way to say I can see past it, I can see through it. It's not me. But in mariras, there's always the belief in change. That's what makes it a positive driven, energy driven feeling.
Well,
it's not a good feeling, it's not a happy
feeling. As a positive feeling, I never considered mariras. So that's that's a totally different spin on it.
Right. And as I'm saying, positive maybe is too generous a term. I don't know if maybe positive is happier. It's not a happy feeling. It's not a happy feeling. But it's I'm gonna stop this.
Is not like it's not misery.
No, we're not using it as misery. No, not at all. And that's why I'm saying the word doesn't translate well, both in the English and in the Hebrew. It's the idea of I am going to make a change that this situation stops. As versus atzvos, I am stuck and this will never stop. Like I'm saying, if someone is in a health situation and they have this atzvos, they have this sadness, the sense is, this is it. I've been sick for years. I'm going to be sick for years. There's no cure. Any of the cures don't work. I'm just stuck and miserable and don't know why this is happening to me. What did I do wrong that I should be suffering with? That's an atzvos sense. And the marira sense will be, I'm going to find the doctor. I'm going to network more. There's a cure. This is not going to last forever. This is getting better. This is going to change. So it is awareness of the pain, but there is that sense of, I'm going to change. It's going to get better. I'm not
stuck. Sense of redemption.
Yeah. But as I'm saying, even though I'm saying mariros is somewhat healthy, it's very easy to slip from that forward charge mariros to depressed, stuck, wallowing in pain, and this is never going to improve. And a lot has to do with our mind control. We really have to regulate the amount of time we think about this issue. A lot of times we don't realize this. We think our thoughts control us. That's not true. We can control our thoughts. Okay? If you came for one thing tonight, maybe this was the line. We can control our thoughts. Our thoughts do not control us. We can actually also control our feelings, but that's quite a bit harder. But thoughts engender feelings. So if I'm controlling my thoughts, sort of that way, I'm also controlling my feelings. So if you have this thing that you keep thinking about and it doesn't put you in good places, don't think about it. Well, I got to find a solution. So think about it in very limited doses at very appropriate times. Don't think about it in the middle of the day when you're supposed to be like at work or dealing with your kids or creating positive energy in your home. Or that's the wrong time. You're not working. You're not with your kids. You're washing your dishes at night when everyone else is sleeping. Perfect. Don't let it mess up your day. Think about it at night. So we have to have the mind control, because sometimes when there's this issue and there's this problem, we just keep going back to it, like, the dog and the bone, and we keep going back to thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And that's not healthy. That's not good. That doesn't put us in any positive space at all. So even when we're doing this, what we call mariras, forward thinking, God-centered, I'm going to change, it's going to improve, positives within a bad situation, I still want to be very, very regulated and limited on when I think about this, how often I think about this, for how long I think about this. I don't want to spontaneously start spacing out and thinking about it. End of the day, before bed. End of the week, like Thursday night. End of the month, we call the last day of the month like a miniature Yom Kippur. That's a good day to think about making changes. Of course, end of the year is the upcoming month of Elul that's coming, starting this Shabbos and Sunday. So then you can think about a whole past year of what you've messed up in. But we don't want to do when we're in the middle and we want to be positive and active and accomplishing. We don't want to be suddenly spacing out, feeling really bad, thinking about our problems. You have problems? You got to think about the problems. Figure out the right time to think about the problems, when it doesn't disturb the other stuff. Designate the time. You should be in control. During the day, you want to be active and productive. Act, don't contemplate. At the end, when you're preparing for tomorrow, when you're washing your dishes, everyone's gone. Okay, then stop and interest. You can think of it sort of like this, Maria, you can think of like an antibiotic, right? Small doses in an appropriate time could be beneficial, but antibiotic is fundamentally destructive. That's why many people avoid taking it. It is fundamentally destructive. So it has to be hyper-regular. So mariras, these thoughts about my situation, which are not going to put me in a happy space, but I'm going to think them to change, small doses at appropriate times, just like the antibiotics. I don't want it to be destructive. I want it to be beneficial. And a lot of times people wallow in their problems and they honestly never focus on solutions. They're not looking for solutions. It's easier to stay stuck and depressed than to do the hard work and deal with your situation. There's a story. This happened in Russia when the communists had taken over and religion was like a forbidden activity. So a group of men were having a Hasidic gathering with a famous Hasidic elder named Rabbi Fagin. And it was a gathering, and he was turning to each one and demanding a lot of spiritual work. It was a very intense gathering. He showed each person what they had to concentrate on, what they had to focus, what they had to fix. And many of the men were so moved, they were crying. They were crying, thinking about their spiritual lacks and how they had to change. And they're crying away. It's a very beautiful, moving, intense gathering. And suddenly, because of course, whenever there was this gathering, always somebody was appointed as the watchman to see if the KGB were coming. And the watchman ran in and said he sees KGB in the area. Immediately, everyone started discussing what they're going to do. And some people said they should run away. And some people said, let's shut all the lights. And some people said, let's pull out newspapers and say we were just having some secular gathering. And whatever they did, the KGB passed. The Hasidic gathering continued. So the rabbi leading this gathering, Rabbi Fagin, he said, I don't get it. What's more significant, a spiritual problem or a physical problem? So of course, everyone said, oh, a spiritual problem. I mean, they knew that was the answer. He says, so I don't get it. By the spiritual problems, what we were talking about a half an hour, 40 minutes ago, everyone's crying. Everyone's so emotional. Suddenly, it's a physical problem and nobody's crying. You're talking about newspapers, you're talking about turning off lights, you're talking about running. No one's crying. Why? Crying wouldn't help. What would crying do for us? We need to figure out a plan. Oh, so then you needed to act. There was no time to cry. So why? By spiritual things is it acceptable just to cry? Now, of course, this story, which I think has a very strong point, is not only by spiritual things. We could apply this to any of the things in our life that we just cry over. We fetch to our friends or our mothers or our sisters or ourselves. We cry, we have pity parties, we feel bad about our life, we feel bad about what's going on in our life, and we don't do anything. We're just stuck thinking we're accomplishing by feeling bad, and we're not. It's actually a very, very, very destructive space to be in. You know, it's sort of like crying is the catharsis. Problems need solutions. They don't need a catharsis. So therefore, going back to the point we were making, generally don't allow yourself to feel pain. Recognize that the pain cripples you. If you don't feel anything at all, you're not going to grow from it. But we said, fine. So feel it a little, feel through that. Meriros, not atzvos. Make it a positive, forward movement, change-oriented, not stuck on self, growing experience, but very, very limited. Because the constant in my life should be positive for all of us. No matter what's happening in our life, no matter how much we're pulled by this or that, or just the blahness of life, the feeling I'm not doing anything with my life, feeling I don't know what I did all day. Even that, you're like sort of embarrassed, that's my problem. But that could also be a problem. You just don't feel good about your life. We don't want that. We want to have a constant, positive feeling in our life. Maimonides says that a person should be happy. They should rejoice. When you are serving God, when you are doing a mitzvah, the happiness that you feel, that rejoicing is so significant. It's giving God so much honor. We're celebrating serving Him. Meaning what Maimonides is saying here is, he's talking to a Orthodox crowd, so to speak, people that are reading his works. So he's sort of saying, I'm now going to put it in my language, not his, okay, you're Orthodox. You serve God. But you could serve God with a chip on your shoulder. You could serve God with a, are you for real? I need to do that? All right, fine, you're God, I'll do it, I give in. And God's like, thanks a lot. But if a person would say, this is a way to connect to you. This is a way to serve you. This is a way to be one with you. What an opportunity. You mean I could just open up that prayer book and like talk to you like in your innermost chambers? I could just say these Psalms, these Tehillim, and I'm drawing down your kindness and compassion. I could just give charity and then you're going to have all this blessings of financial resources flowing down to me. Like, this is amazing stuff. So the more you serve with joy, the more you're giving to God the message, I get it. This is good. I appreciate it. I know this is the best stuff in the world. I know I tasted other waters. They're not as good. They're not as sweet. They're not as quenching. They're not as nourishing. They're not as pure. They're not as wholesome. I don't want any of them anymore. I want you. And I'm so happy to be with you. So that's why Rambam Maimonides is saying that when you are joyous as you serve God, you're honoring God. You're celebrating your life. You're celebrating your service. And that's supposed to be our general space. Our general space is like your, de facto bottom line you just revert to. I have such a undeservedly blessed life. And that's the counter argument to the pain, to the boredom, to the feeling nothing exciting is going on, nothing positive is going on, nothing's going in my direction. I have an unbelievably, undeservedly blessed. And you keep saying that and keep thinking about the things that are your reasons why your life is so undeservedly blessed. Rambam says we're always supposed to be happy. And that's a celebration of our relationship with God when we're always happy. Because guess what? This is the life He's giving me. The life I'm leading, the challenge I'm dealing with, this is all coming from Him. This is his choice for me. My bad mistake, my ignorance, my stupidity. His script. It's all his script. And when you're kicking and screaming at his script, it's not a very great honor of your relationship with him. And when you're happy in your life and you know your life is from him, it's really expressing that love and trust in God. It's interesting. There's several prerequisites for prophecy. And these prerequisites really express like the epitome of personal development. Like you have to be very wise, a very strong character, never been overcome by your natural inclinations. Lots and lots of things like, wow, what a special person. And truly, the prophets were very, very, very special people. But still, you can have all those qualities. You're so wise, you're so holy, you're so learned, you're so amazing. But if you're sad, zero, zip, no prophecy. Prophecy cannot rest on a person who's sad. Only a person who's happy. So the same is true for us. God only can rest on us if we're happy. If I'm happy, just like the prophet, God can be with me. And if I'm not happy, that not happiness chases away God from me the same way it chases away God from the prophet. We see this in everything, in the whole spectrum of Jewish life. We see this in the temple. We see this in Shabbos and the holidays. They're all supposed to be places and times of joy.